So today's Thursday. I think it's July the 2nd. Hey, Key. so, there's a new kitty I got Max. He's very jealous of. Oh, I got you. Come here. Come here. He's like, no. But, Max, I love you. I love you. But, go on. Go play. So I'm just walking to the grocery store. It was a RAC Rent-A-Center truck. I was walking by. I didn't even notice it. They looked at it and they were like, rack. They like to do this thing where they're like, look over here, look over here, look over here. And I look at it and then they describe what I'm looking at. They read what I'm looking at. Or sometimes they do it beforehand. They usually do it after I glance at it because they want to be annoying. But this time they were like, look over there, rack. And I looked and there's a Rent-A-Center truck, rack. And then they're like, ooh, we're going to rack you in the balls. And then all of a sudden I feel like my balls are being crushed and slightly electrocuted. They're saying it right now. They're going, is that a sexual touch? They're saying your father will never believe you. Like, that just sounds ridiculous. It is ridiculous. So from your perspective, you think that I heard schizophrenic voices that described something that, like I wasn't even aware there's a Rent-A-Center there. So you think like I gleaned from thin air that, or had sight beyond sight, or had the power of premonition that there was going to be a Rent-A-Center truck there because I wasn't paying attention to it. And they're like, look over there, rack. There's a rack, a Rent-A-Center truck. And then the schizophrenic voices said that I was going to be racked in the balls, and then suddenly I'm psychosomatically feeling a pain in my balls that I can block with my hands. Like that's ridiculous, Dad. These are real people doing that, okay? That's just one of the many experiences that I have all the fucking time. Walking back with groceries, just, it's just a couple of sodas in my backpack and a soda and some yogurt in a bag on my backpack, hanging from my backpack. Really not that heavy. And then it feels like there's like a 90 mile an hour wind without the windy feeling pushing against me, as they often do when I'm walking. And then they're zapping my feet at the same time. They're kind of pushing me to the side a little bit here and there. They're pushing down and against me. So it's an even harder, so every time I walk anywhere, it's harder. I think when I was at work a couple of days ago, when I got the kitty, I was carrying windows from like point A to point B. They're like, just wait for it, wait for it, wait for it. And then boom, it feels like the windows are suddenly it feels like someone's pushing down on them. They feel like they're twice as heavy. And then they start shocking my muscles in a way. And like you can tell when your muscles are being shocked. Like my muscles weren't just being fatigued. I literally felt shocks to them. So you think I coincidentally heard schizophrenic voices immediately prior to the thing that they were predicting or teasing or taunting me with. And then they just kept doing it over and over again. They did it almost every single time. I'd be carrying the windows and they were like, wait for it, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then boom, it just feels like they immediately like increase in weight by double. And they're shocking my muscles. And then they're like, okay, now we're going to shock your muscles to where you can't hold on to them anymore. And they're shocking them, and it's like I have to put them down and rest for a couple seconds. Like, that's not schizophrenia, Dad. That's not fibromyalgia and schizophrenia mixed with ESP. That's utterly ludicrous that you would think that. So, I'm going to show the top of my ass crack now, because that's pleasant, that's really fun to show. And attacking the top of my ass crack now, the past few days. So they've been burning it, and they've been shocking it, so it feels like there's tiny little electrical shocks on it. Nearly quite as bad as my legs were, but they've been doing it for a lot longer than they were doing my legs. So that's kind of what my legs looked like when they were scabbed over, Dad, to give you a reference of that. So they've been doing that for the past few days. It's July the 5th now. But that's the top of my ass crack, Dad. And it goes down further than that. So yesterday on July the 5th, I woke up with a burning sensation on my chest, particularly like this area here, but it was also here and here and on the sides of my body. They've done this type of attack before. It's one of like the most intolerable attacks. It feels like sort of like a sunburn feeling, but deeper, like that irritated, burning, nonstop, like won't go away feeling, with electrocution attached to it. Like it's one of their more horrible attacks, and I could partially block it by doing this with my hand or with my fist right here, block it on my chest, and I could do this on the sides of my body like this, and it would block it partially to the sides of my body, and then I would feel like a burning sensation and electrocution sensation on my arms. So it's like I can block it. I can feel it on my arms when I do that. When I do that, it's like it comes in this angle, but then like I do this, and then like if I do it forward, then they'll come in at a back thing. So like that's not schizophrenic voices coinciding with some sort of psychosomatic imaginary part of my brain that's imagining an attack. That's like when I go to block it and I feel it on my arms, then it moves back to attack more from the backwards angle, and then I have to sort of like roll them back and then do this. Like that's ludicrous to think that that's schizophrenic. That's anything but an external force, and real people doing that. And part of the attack will migrate to here. Sometimes they only focus on this area in the past they've done, like right here, and they call that the Constantine attack. And the reason why they call it that is because in Constantine, near the end, to prevent John Constantine from going to heaven, because he sacrificed himself at the end, but he has cancer also in his lungs from smoking, and Lucifer literally digs his hands like into this part of the body right here, and sucks up the cancer from his lungs. And they call it the Constantine attack. It's deep. It feels like it's in the muscles and the tissue, and it feels it's like in the bones too, like it's on the ribs. And it's extremely painful and disconcerting, and it sucks. And the other reason why it sucks is because sort of the radiation from the burning, so you can cover it like this, but it's not like a normal attack like on the migraine or whatever, where it's like it doesn't really block it for the entire hand area, because they'll hit it right here and then the radiation sort of seeps in, and so you're really covering a much smaller area than it would appear from like other types of attacks. It sucks. And they were also mocking me, saying, hey, your dad's going to think you have COVID-19 even though you tested negative for it. He's going to think you have that because you have burning chest sensation, and sometimes because you'd have a shortness of breath. Like, that's not schizophrenic voices, Dad. Sometimes they say, like, we're going to migrate to the Constantine attack like they did yesterday, and it moves there. That's not schizophrenic voices predicting that that's going to happen to my body. And it's not schizophrenic voices that are like, oh, he's seen the movie Constantine, let's reference to that movie that he hasn't seen in a while, and then let's reference that and come up with a name for the attack that this mimics. Like, that's just ludicrous to think that that's possible. And they keep doing like their more horrible attacks and more intolerable attacks like every single day. I can't even get to sleep on this because they're attacking me in the bed. They're attacking my crotch. They're still buzzing my feet right now. Dad, one of the things that they keep mentioning is, I guess whenever you were moving, I guess when I was still in the valley, they were bringing up, and you had moved. At that time, they brought up like an old notepad or construction book or something like that like they found, where I had drawn some characters, like cartoon characters, like a blockhead or something like that they mentioned that I totally forgot about. They also mentioned that they saw Jack, the name Jack, like signed over and over again, and at first they were telling me that they thought that was like someone that I was interested in or a friend of mine, and they realized at some point, I don't know why, because I guess I wrote it sideways, that when you look at it, there's a way that you can write the word Jack in cursive, and it kind of looks like a line drawing of a profile of a guy's face, like and the J is like his ball cap. And they also said there was penises drawn over it, and they referenced Superbad and how Jonah Hill's character did that. And but I don't know if you ever ran into that, Dad, while you were looking through things, or if your girlfriend did when you were moving or looking through or packing to move. I had totally forgotten about the Jack thing and the other things as well. But they said that they were on you and that they were watching you. And of course, if that didn't happen with you, then they're telling me, well, now it just looks like you're crazier because your dad never saw that, and he won't even know what you're talking about. But he will, and oh my God, but he still won't believe you. Because again, Dad, I did try drugs. I did try olanzapine and some other drug, and olanzapine at the most takes 6 weeks for anyone for the full effect of it, and the other drug, I'm not sure. It probably has the same time, give or take. But I was prescribed that for a couple months. I was taken off of the second drug for the second month, but it didn't do anything. So, Dad, I tried 2 drugs, and then you're trying to ask me to try another drug, and the drug that you actually did suggest, I was actually forcibly sedated with soon after you suggested that to me by text message at the hospital. And again, all it did was knock me out. It didn't solve any of the problems. It didn't make the voices go away. I woke up, but they're still there talking to me. So that drug didn't do anything either, and that would have had a more immediate impact, because that's, they inject that into people to get them, back to reality, and to sedate them, and to get them back to reality when they wake up as well. But nothing. So in effect, I'd actually have tried that third drug that you mentioned. So I've tried, not voluntarily, multiple times actually. So I've really tried 3 drugs for antipsychotic schizophrenia, and none of them have done anything except knock me out or make me feel like a zombie. So I've done that. And I did not come down with a 20 or 30 different conditions, some of which you can't come down with. Tourette's, you don't develop Tourette's. You're born with Tourette's, or you don't have Tourette's. And again, Tourette's that are predicted ahead of time, that I literally have on video. Again, Dad, please don't call me a liar ever again. Please don't address this as a mental health issue ever again. Please don't address this as a drug use issue ever again. Because it's none of those things. I'm not on drugs now, and during these events I haven't been on them. Just what if Kip is telling the truth? What if my son is telling the truth? Which you've never done. And if you had done that, and you had followed through on your promises, again, even if you don't think that, you should have no objection to a third party investigating this. You broke your promise on that. You said you would give me a budget of $5,000 after that. I have a logistical issue with these people on me, and I guess you have that logistical issue as well if they're still on you, if they're still on you now, or if they would move or travel to you, if you were to do this. If I hire someone, then they know who I'm hiring, and they can watch those people and know what those people are doing to make sure that they avoid those people, or to get on the people that they're going to be interviewing or whatever, which they could still be doing or have done already with these witnesses, with these suspects and whatever. But I have a huge logistical issue, and plus I'm the victim still experiencing it. You could have saved us all by now over 3 years of additional suffering and cost and whatever. This is a class action lawsuit. I've had my basic human rights violated. I've had my civil rights violated by the police. When I was kicked out in the manor house, I wasn't doing anything wrong. You mentioned the totality thing. Tim is a worrywart, and plus they were in his head too. And I was just telling him that they were increasing the pain and increasing the horrible things that they were saying to me. And he was like, I'm worried. And I'm like, yeah, I'm worried too, that this is that my dad isn't going to investigate this. It's definitely something to worry about. Can you imagine going through this, Dad, and wondering I've been waiting for a rescue, not that I'm really waiting anymore, because I've just given up on you, and I'm about to give up on everything, because it's what's the point now? It's you're not doing anything. The guy was told he didn't do any of the things that he said he was going to do. He didn't look into it all. He was told he wasn't allowed to pursue it, and I'm still suffering, and they're literally pounding on my back right now. And they're literally saying to me, how do you like that? You can't do anything about it. Your dad doesn't believe you. He's never going to believe you because we're on him, or we're not on him, or we're making you think we're on him. But he's to that point now where he will never believe you, because how ridiculous does it seem? And I'm literally quoting them as they're saying this to me. How ridiculous does it seem that someone would stay on you for this long? But they're we get to do this on duty and off duty, and we get paid to do this. But they literally said oh, we made you the training person, so you'll never get us off you. If we were just a normal team, we would have gotten tired with you and moved on to someone else, because we've tried to push you to suicide, and that's not going to happen. And we know that's not going to happen, even though you say you're at your wit's end. We know that's not going to happen, so we're just going to make you suffer for this in the meantime, because we get paid for it, and no one's going to stop us. And your dad's not going to believe you ever, so it's humorous to us, although it's boring to us now, blah, blah, blah. And Kip doesn't believe or disbelieve this. This is still what they're saying to me right now. They literally are on me 24/7, which is the most unbelievable thing about this. There's no condition that causes frostbite sensations. I have excellent blood pressure. I've never had high blood pressure or low blood pressure. I've always been in the excellent range. They almost always tell me every time that it's excellent or very good. And I don't have diabetes, so forget anything about, well, maybe you're diabetic, maybe it's a circulation issue. There's videos that I made in Whitney, I literally am sitting next to the heater. The trailer is literally literally 70 degrees in the room that I'm in, or at least near the space heater. It's certainly 70 degrees, give or take. And in those videos, I've always mentioned that a lot of times my feet before the video were under 2 layers of blankets, sometimes folded over again. And oftentimes I'll even clearly state, and I'm wearing socks. And I'll do the videos where I'm here's my foot, and I wave my hand over it, and I'm Oh, now my hands feels like it's in blocks of ice, or it's been stuck into the freezer, and my toes are returning to a normal temperature. In those videos, Dad, I'm clearly showing that I'm in a sound state of mind. Why would it be warmer here? Why would it feel like it's 30 degrees right here? There's no open window, there's no draft or anything. In fact, there's a heater right there, a brand new heater. I can literally do this in my hand, and now my hand feels colder. It feels like it's being stuck in the freezer. Both my hands feel like they're blocks of ice. This hand's holding the fucking warm cell phone. There's a heater right here, and it still feels like it's getting frostbite. Electrolasers are known to cause a frostbite attack. That was something I read up on electrolasers prior to, probably a year prior to recording some of them on the from the Whitney location. And I remember when I found out about electrolasers, I read up on it and said, like, the spokesperson for the electrolaser company said, we've added a freezing burn feature, or a burning freeze feature, or something like that. And I was like, oh great, they just used that on me, like, they started that on me a few weeks ago. And as I'm reading it, they're like, ha, like, we're implementing new features on this and using it on you. And it's like, that's not schizophrenia, Dad. Like schizophrenia does not coordinate with everything in your fucking life and comment on everything and predict things and warn about things ahead of time. Things that other people are able to feel external to my body. And the other victims are experiencing as well. And just because one person did a very fallible test that was just a what if, when I asked him to step on my shoes one time, that does not cover my feet 100%. It doesn't negate or nullify the other witnesses that I have that did feel something. It's just, do you think that they're going to have witnesses? Do you think, like, otherwise I would be asking everyone to feel for this, and tons of witnesses, and asking everyone to feel for these things around me and to go on record for them. And I would have had officers in the jail and officers that I called up on 911 or 311 to do that. Do you think they're going to allow that to happen? Like, the only reason why they probably allow that to happen is because of your bullshit bigotry and ignorance with people in jail. You said, oh, they're just junkie. First of all, all those guys have been in jail there for weeks or months. They're not on anything, and just because even if they were on something, it wouldn't matter. But we were interviewed and gave supporting testimony, and we didn't meet and say and make this stuff up. They gave honest testimony. Migraine, and then all of a sudden my whole fucking face starts to hurt. Once again, they said, we'll give you a migraine, and the pain increased in my head. That is not my brain manifesting voices because it detects that there is an impending migraine, nor do I have the power of premonition. Plus, I can block the pain with my hand, as I demonstrate here. I can put my hand up like that. My hand's in pain now because it's been blocking the targeted energy beam. They just said we're going to kick it up a notch. And it feels like I've got jolts of electricity going through the left side of my body. Once again, I don't have the power of premonition. They said that they were going to cause me to have a mimicked asthma attack. It can't be certain we're going to give you an asthma attack. Control the breathing too. Start shocking your diaphragm. Once again, I don't have the power of premonition. Now they're saying, hey kid, tell them that we're going to make you start doing facial tics. So we're going to start doing facial tics. This is involuntary. Once again, I don't have the power of premonition. And right here, I can feel right there, my hand hurts. Hand doesn't feel anything here. Right there, it feels a pain. It feels like there's needles going. I can put my hand over here and I can feel an electrical field hitting my entire arm. I feel sharp pricks hit my hand. The electric nipple tweak, and I can cover it with my arm. And my forearm is getting shocked now. They are zapping my asshole now. I can put my hand down here. I feel an electrical surge going through my hand. It feels like there's an incredible weight pounding down on my back. I can do this, and my entire arm is electrocuted. Do that, and it stops. My hand feels a buzzing on it. It feels an electrical buzzing on it, and my ear no longer feels that. Now, all along here, I feel an electrical buzzing, and it's painful. Nothing causes the tactile sensation of remember tube TVs, Dad? Remember if you turn them on or off and that layer of static on that thick layer of static? I have felt that against my face. They do that sometimes, especially when I have a beard or whatever. They do that, and I have to do this. and then say that they're kind of doing that across my face right now, and it's making me antsy. It's making me like ugh, and like I can feel that on the tips, and that's not psychosomatic. And they're like, oh, your dad's gonna, and they're telling me right now, your dad's gonna think that's a psychosomatic thing. There is no disease or condition or mental illness that would give you that sensation. Like, you can tell when something is external to your body. You can tell when someone's pushing against you, when something's crushing you. It's like I can literally right now, and as I'm saying that, and this isn't psychosomatic, not only are they shocking my feet and buzzing and vibrating my feet right now in a way that could not be misinterpreted by something that's internal to the body at all. They're literally, it feels like someone's stepping on the roof of my shoes now. So like right here, and now I don't feel it. So I move my foot, now I don't feel it. So sometimes they follow my feet when I do that. Now I don't feel that, but I still feel it on my other foot. It literally feels like someone is pushing down, and I literally feel the roof of my shoe caving in physically onto the top of my foot. There's nothing, it is impossible for anything internal to the body to cause that, or anything up here. I'm not imagining that something is crushing my feet. They like to do that. As I'm explaining something, or as I'm describing the types of attacks that they do, they like to intensify the ones that they're already doing, and they like to go through the thing, they call it the demo mode, like on a massage chair. Like when you're in a massage chair or a massage thing, you know how they have the settings where it goes, you can do the demo mode where it kind of goes, you know, down your body and then up your body. That's what they call it. We call it the demo mode. Especially when I do these videos or whatever, or when I'm describing to someone what I'm experiencing, they like to add on to that, so like the list never ends practically. So they call that the demo mode, because they just go through all, you know, different parts of my body. And like now they're changing the pattern of the vibration and the shock in my feet. They like to do that too. Sometimes it doesn't necessarily intensify, or it does a little bit or a lot. Sometimes they'll just change it. They'll change the pattern to it. Now they're shocking my crotch right now. There's no disease, like nothing causes electric, I've literally dropped down to my knees before with this stuff, like I've been tased, because electro lasers can be used as wireless tasers. Nothing, there's no disease or condition that can cause that. It doesn't matter about the, you know, like your nerve things. It cannot mimic full-blown electrocution. When you have seizures and whatever, while it may look like someone that could be being electrocuted, it does not feel like that. There's a difference with that. You can feel when you're being shocked, okay? And you can say, well, that's your brain shocking yourself. Your brain cannot shock your body to the extent of an electrolaser or a taser. It can't. You know, your muscles can seize up like that, but again, your muscles can seize up under a very small amount of electricity. So I can tell when there's a small amount of electricity going through me and a large amount of electricity going through me and buzzing me, and with a static feeling on the face and the frostbite sensations. And again, I've never had a problem with my blood pressure or circulation, and I don't have diabetes, and it hasn't always been in my feet that they do this. They've done it on my hands, they've done it on other parts of my body, they've done it on my crotch before, they've done it on my face before, they've done it on my ears before, on my nose. And as I say that, like my nose suddenly feels like cooler, but whatever. They're doing the demo mode as I'm doing that. Nothing can cause that. When I was in the valley, they said, we're going to give you hemorrhoids, which I never get. Again, they warned ahead of time during that day, we're going to give you hemorrhoids. And then within a few minutes or in the next hour, like it literally felt like my asshole was being shocked, and it felt like somebody was trying to pull, like it almost felt like there was a vacuum, like a vacuum hose on my asshole. It felt like someone was trying to suck it out. It was very disconcerting, very alarming, and very frightening. I literally ended up wadding up a towel in sort of like a cone or hump shape, and literally like was sitting on it to prevent my asshole from being pulled inside out. And then still was holding my hand down there, and I could feel shocks hitting my hand that they were trying to get to my asshole. And like again, within an hour, and again, I was just sitting in the bed or standing in my bedroom, doing nothing but like playing on my phone or whatever. And then, you know, I go to the bathroom and check. I've got hemorrhoids like a motherfucker. It was unbelievable. I don't have the power of premonition. I could not have predicted that. And you need to stop ignoring that, Dad. Like, that was 7 or 8 months ago, or longer ago, that I told you about that. And you're still doing nothing. But again, Dad, I tried 3 drugs for schizophrenia. Even the third one that you suggested, although that one was involuntarily injected into me, and that's not the only time that that's happened. None of those drugs did anything except knock me out or make me feel like a zombie. So, like, again, don't even bring up mental illness ever again, Dad. I'm not mentally ill. I'm not suffering psychosis because the camera picks that up. Again, I don't always see shapes and images every single time I'm doing a recording on that. And many of the times, it's just noise.
I think that's pretty clearly an eye, or something that couldn't be interpreted that way. It even has an iris, and it'll morph and it'll change. Here it looks like there's a pair of eyes, and you can even make out the bridge of a nose. I was lying on the couch like this long ways, and then up that way was a Maureen Keena poster. And immediately when he left to go drive for Lyft, all this red light flooded the apartment, and a lot of these they weren't quite like laser beams, but like you can think of them as like laser beams, they weren't quite that strong. It's important that when you look at it, my eyes saw that unaided. It is not camera noise, Dad, or Tim, or anyone else. It is not camera noise. The red light flooded the room, especially over the poster, and this distortion happened right in front of the face. Now, I'm not saying that the print changed itself. I don't think there's a ghost or some supernatural thing happening. But there was a beam coming in, hitting the wall.
Let's take a look at that again. Right in front of my eyes, the camera catches it right here. Boom. Red light floods the room. That happened right in front of my eyes, and the camera caught that. Wasn't suffering psychoses. Have never suffered psychoses.
Even my channel icon, looks like there's a face in the stop sign. So here's something I think is more clearly the eyes, or it could be interpreted as eyes. I'll even suggest like where some facial features are. I'll do it here too. There's even some color there. You can even make out the irises in them. In regards to the image on the left, they like to make references to Gremlins and Gizmo, because Gizmo was the nickname of Jason Barrientos, who had my stolen phone. He says, my eyes definitely looks more cartoony than the other. And if you also look at my mouth, it looks like it's crooked, but I'm not twisting my mouth in any sort of way. I'm not doing a smirk or anything like that. Here I think it's very clear that there's some sort of anomaly happening between my eyes and the reflection, or between the camera lens and the reflection. My eyes appear to, get bigger. They appear to look illustrated. There's absolutely no filter on this. It's not enhanced in any sort of way. This is the original footage. Here it looks like one of my eyes is lower than the other. So in a second, my eyes are about to light up a little bit. And I've seen this do this on other people that I was talking to. They did this to Micah Swindle when he would hang out at the Grove with me sometimes. Sometimes his eyes would light up. I'm assuming he wasn't aware of it.
Let's look at that again. I point to my eyes, and then boom, they light up.
Here I'm going to be putting my fingers and my hand between my eyes and the reflection. So you'll see that the projected imagery, the projected eyes, the projected twack still shows up over it. So here my hand is in front of both eyes, and you can literally see another pair of eyes projected onto my hand, or between the reflection and my hand. Here again, I'm just showing how the eyes still project in front of or on top of the reflection or my hand, and how you can interpret multiple eyes there, how they stack eyes on eyes on eyes. Look at that. Like, that is very clearly, easily interpreted as an eye.
You have to believe me, because you never have. You have to allow for that possibility, because from your perspective, because if you want to believe that trying multiple drugs for schizophrenia, which have been unsuccessful, you would also have to believe that I had the power to foretell the future, which you always ignore, possibly because of them. You cannot ignore that, and you have to throw out the fact that I'm lying, because I'm not lying to you. I'm not gaining anything from this.
And shortly after I moved in there, they used Christine Pavelka's voice, and I was walking Max around the building, and they were like, "Ooh, we're gonna drop a meth pipe in your bush." And right when I turned around the corner, like seconds later, I saw two girls walking by my apartment in the opposite direction, or I guess in the same direction I was walking in, and they were like, "We're gonna drop a meth pipe in your bush." And not the girls, but the voice voices, and they did it in Christine Pavelka's voice. And I saw the girl dip down, and it looked like she was dropping something or picking something up in her bushes, but I didn't see anything. They're like, "Ooh, we're going to call the police and say there's a meth pipe in your bush, and we're going to get you arrested." Once again, I don't have the power of premonition.
When I was in jail last time, I started a journal, and I wrote down, everything that I was experiencing. Also, before I did the journal, they told me that when I was going to be moved from one unit to the other, that I would be seeing Micah. And when I got moved, Micah was in the unit that I was in. I didn't even know that he was in jail. I could not have predicted that.
December 4th, 2017, at 1:23 p.m., I heard, "Is it hard to breathe?" And then suddenly it felt like there were 1,000 little hands pushing on my chest, and then it was. Once again, I don't have the power of premonition. Then they said, "Reach for the stars." And this was just as an officer walked by that had a star tattoo on his elbow. I'd never noticed that before until they said that. Once again, I don't have the power of premonition. Another day they said, "Are your ears hurting?" And then suddenly they are. And then a high frequency tone just started being broadcast to my head. Once again, I don't have the power of premonition. Another day they said, "We'll just pound your balls." And then they just did. Once again, I don't have the power of premonition. Another day they said, "Fake heart rate increases dramatically," and then my heart rate increased dramatically. Once again, I don't have the power of premonition. Another day they said, "Let's turn on the heat wave," and then it felt like a heat lamp was on my face. Once again, I don't have the power of premonition. Another day they said, "We can make you throw up like Epicax syrup," and then I felt a heat lamp, the scalp chill, and the throat pressure, causing a burp that was almost a burp, almost made me vomit. Once again, I don't have the power of premonition. Another day I was reading the Dark Tower series, and they oftentimes read along with me aloud while I was reading the book, and oftentimes they would read ahead. And then one day in particular they read ahead when the text was on the other side of the page, so I thought that was important to note because I couldn't even see that in my peripheral vision. Once again, I don't have the power of premonition. 1341. Hey Kip, you're going to see 1431 come up. You used to work off of 1431, right? You're going to see that come up a couple of times. Oh look Kip, we told you there was going to be a 1341 and a 1431 come up. Actually there's going to be two 1431s that come up. Once again, I don't have the power of premonition. Ooh Kip, look, there's another 1431. We told you there were going to be two of them coming up. How would we know that? Once again, I don't have the power of premonition. I'm freaking out over this one because this is almost my phone number. 484-4247 is my phone number.
What if Kip is telling the truth? What if my son is telling the truth? Which you've never done. I do not benefit from doing these things except in the hopes of you finally believing me and documenting what I'm going through. Like if someone's going through this, they have to document that. They just have to. Okay? It's important to do that. Even if this was a disability, it's important to document that. Why do you think I'm doing so many of those videos? I was like, hey, the police department and my dad, including Robin, whatever, family, friends, I don't think they realize how 24/7 this is, and I think that they realize that they may think, oh, I'm experiencing like some mild shocking sensations here and there around the clock. And I'm like, I'm going to document as much as possible, even though it's a pain in the fucking ass. If you think it's a pain in the ass to watch those videos, Dad, first of all, it's a huge amount of suffering to be going through it to begin with. It is, on top of that, it is a huge pain in the ass to record it, to log it, to rename the file, to make sure that I stay consistent with my naming, my file naming conventions, and then I upload that to Drive, and then I upload that to YouTube. It's a huge pain in the ass to keep up with that. Like, I'm trying to show you a day in my life, and even then it still doesn't, it only shows you an infinitesimally small fractional amount, even on the ones that have the most videos for the day. That's still an infinitesimally sliver into my life. And it still doesn't represent the pain that I'm experiencing, because it's like I have to, show you that I can control myself and that I'm in a calm and sound state of mind, which you still completely ignore and disrespect. So I think I'm showing a high degree of control, considering the situation, and especially a high degree of control with my frustration with you and Robin, Dad. You don't respect that at all. You've literally being honest with you and giving you a very understandable reaction to the complete letdown and disappointment of you breaking your promises to me, and you can bring up that bullshit excuse of you didn't provide me a second contact. Dad, I went through and vetted every single one. Reading the things that they go to, going to their website, looking at the types of things that they investigate, looking at the reviews for them, seeing how many they were, how long ago they were. I looked at every single one of those, and I called some of them. But I provided you a contact that I saw, and I said, none of the other ones are probably going to be appropriate for the type of investigation that we need on this. Most of them do background checks and like joint custody things for kids. Austin has very limited selection of, but I went to Yelp and I looked through every single one of those. I literally told you, I can't find a second contact. I need your help to do that. You're probably going to have to look to the closer, bigger cities like Dallas or Houston to look for a more appropriate investigator. So you disrespected the time and effort that I went through. So I thought your lack of response was you respecting me, telling you, like, don't tell me that they're coming, like, because it was a two-part investigation. It was one looking into all those loose threads, those open questions, the suspects, interviewing them. The second one was try to catch these people in the act. Come up on them with drones or with, different types of special photography equipment or special electronics equipment from afar. Maybe on a drone, maybe from a telescopic, whatever, to where they don't know that you're coming. Weeks went by, nothing happened. You never told me, Kip, I need a second contact from you. I was hopefully and optimistically, Dean, hopefully he's already hired that person. They're looking into it, so any day now I'm going to be rescued and these people are going to be caught, or at least I'm going to be rescued. Nothing happened. And then you're like, well, you didn't provide me a second contact. Well, you can't Google it your fucking self, Dad? Oh, that's the first time I've used a curse word with you. Again, you may not be angry with anything that I'm saying, certainly not with me, and you can't be angry at all. But, you owe me an investigation, period. You have to do that. There's suspects that have never been interviewed. I was assaulted at my doctor's office, and my medical information was leaked prior to that visit to that doctor's office, as they were telling me. You think I magically, just coincidentally, that I was being told information about my old doctor's office visits immediately prior to a doctor's visit in which I was assaulted at, or which I claimed to be assaulted at, which I was, and lied to by two nurses there. Do you think that those two things are coincidences? Like, you don't think it did happen, but it did happen. So, again, it did happen. So you think that was like I'm in some constant 24/7 daily psychosis, and I don't know when I'm assaulted by someone. When blood was already taken from me and all I needed was a Band-Aid and to go, she said, hold on, and said that she didn't get any, which was a lie, because I looked down and she did get some, but I didn't know. I thought maybe she needed to get more, and she came in with another lady that stabbed me immediately, threw the needle away, and smiled at me like that. And no other attempt to take blood. Not that that was an attempt to take blood either, because they already took blood that they did the 2 lab tests on. I could not have predicted that the guy in 301 had my phone or hacked my Google account. You keep ignoring that. That was the first major instance within 30 days of hearing the voices that I knew that they were real. Again, you cannot dismiss that as a fluke or as anything. I did not know the guy. I did not hang out with him. I could not have predicted that he hacked my Google account, as I verified when I looked at the password change, and it was changed by an email address linking to the guy's Facebook profile. And again, you keep ignoring that and throwing that out, which has frustrated me so much. You keep saying you're trying the same thing and expecting different results. So I am not trying the same thing, but I am providing you some of the same information because you keep ignoring it. So you keep doing the same thing, expecting a different result. That's not really something that you should say to someone. You're trying the same thing, expecting a different result. What if they are? What if the different result is something that should be pursued? But the only reason why it's not being pursued is because you simply choose not to do that. So that's not rational or logical to use that as a statement to someone and to not expect them to be frustrated by that, because that's not a reason to not do the thing that they're asking you to do. That's not giving them anything to tell them how it would help you to do the thing that you promised that you would do, but you failed to do. That's not doing anything but putting up a brick wall, and it's really bullshit, because it shouldn't be said at all. Because, again, you should pursue that. Even though I knew I wasn't schizophrenic, we've tried at least 3 drugs for that, all of which should have taken effect. And the only effect that they had on me was they either knocked me out completely or made me feel like a zombie. Again, I don't have the power to foretell the future. I don't have sight beyond sight. It was not a coincidence that I found out that the guy in 301 had my phone, or someone that he knew, and that his email address was used to hack my Google accounts. I could not have predicted that. I could not have gleaned that. I could not have known that, or suspected that, even in a paranoid, delusional, schizophrenic state. That is highly illogical, and it is irrational, and it is a complete fallacy and error and fuck up and bullshit to move on. Like, I shouldn't even have to tell you anything else after that. That alone should be, oh, you're right. That alone tells you these voices are real, so everything else that you're telling me is probably true as well. Because, your camera's picking up the bullshit. I blow it off as camera noise, even though in, the trailer for my YouTube channel, it clearly shows a face on my wall in one of them. And in other cases, it shows my face looking like it's morphine. And I've described to you, and again, the camera doesn't pick up everything. It doesn't do it justice. And again, I have seen these things lit up like a neon sign. Not quite as bright. They're only going to show that to me when I don't have my camera on me or when my phone is dead. It's like, but then they do everything else on the borderline of like how, is easily captured. Well, no, it's not easy to capture that bullshit. It's like, it's partially transparent. Sometimes it's like 90% transparent. So you can imagine how difficult that is to pick up. So I've seen things that the camera has never shown you. Okay? And even the things that it has captured, again, I shouldn't have to go into that, and for you to, like, it's totally insulting for you to be like, that's just camera noise. No, it's not camera noise. I saw that with my eyes. My eyes don't experience camera noise. So again, I was doing that because I was noticing that bullshit, not noticing any content in it right away, but noticing that, and that's why I started taking pictures of that, because it looked like the walls were fuzzy, kind of like having one contact in and one contact out. If you remember that, Dad, that's how it kind of looked when I first started noticing that the walls looked weird. And then they started putting faces in trees and whatever. And I've clearly shown in some of the videos where that is. And you can blow it off as though that's just like looking at the clouds. I don't care. I've literally seen them do that. And then when another person walked by at the Grove, and it looked like almost like an animatronic, but it wasn't. It wasn't really moving. It was just projection. When a person walked by, boom, back to normal. Then they got down there, boom, bullshit again, crazy nonsense, psychoses again. If I was suffering psychoses, it wouldn't go away when a person came by.
Also, I didn't notice the person walking by until the projections had turned off.
It wouldn't happen. Yes, technically, it is a highly improbable thing that one episode of that I was experiencing was an episode of psychosis, and that it temporarily was, turned off in my head while someone walked by. That is virtually impossible to happen.
If you find yourself 24/7 having thoughts circling around and around, and you don't ever remember yourself doing that, because I certainly don't remember ever doing that, or just like constantly have an excessive amount of thoughts circling around you, and it's causing you to be constantly anxious or depressed, you may be getting gang stalked. And I know that they've been on you in the past, because it was not a coincidence that I was looking up at the Hampton Inn sign after returning from Chris's house and the neighbors two houses down, when I called you the day after Thanksgiving in 2016, and you described doing the very same thing when you went in there to get coffee. That is not a coincidence. The chances of that happening are like 1 in a billion, and I'm not exaggerating when I say that at all.
Max could have died, and again, they're fucking with his ears like a motherfucker. One of his ears is swollen up, and you can say, well, that's just him. First of all, Max doesn't have eczema, okay? If he had eczema, he would have already exhibited signs of eczema by now. So, because of that commercial that's on TV about the excessive dog itching, so they fucked with his right ear, and then in the same day that, right before, the same period of time that they started that up again, then they've done this to me before, they started making my ear itch, and I'm doing this like a motherfucker. So Max and I are both doing this. We have ear mites, he doesn't have fleas. I've dealt with pets that had both before. I know how to look for them, and I know what the signs of them are. And again, my ear, was getting attacked at the same time his was. Now recently, because they've been doing, see, they just did it again. They're like and they're saying to me, your dad's going to think that you're pretending this, and that you're pretending to stutter, and that you're pretending to do this to your face. Like, Dad, you don't develop Tourette's, and you have Tourette's or you don't. It's like a genetic thing. You don't develop Tourette's at 45 years old. Predicted ahead of time, which I have video of. And it's like, I'm not pretending. I'm not pretending to do this right now. I don't enjoy, going like that. First of all, I don't enjoy it happening to me. It happens to me much more than I document it. When I'm not with anyone, I don't gain anything from sitting outside by myself with no one around. Just sitting outside with Max smoking a cigarette. I don't gain anything from this happening. A couple of days ago, and this has happened more than once. Like, they've been making Max go like that with his, and he never does that. They're like, oh, look, now we're doing it to your dog. Like, after they already started doing it with me. The odds of this happening to Max and me at the same time, when it never happened to us before in our lives until like recently, relatively recently, and Max very recently, like the odds of that happening while schizophrenic voices are predicting that ahead of time, observing it ahead of time, talking about it afterwards, the odds of that trifecta or whatever happening are like 1 in a billion, Dad. And Dad, whether you believe me or not, like, take my entire inheritance, put that in a fund for getting me Max to rescue, investigating these people, so that way it's not a burden. It's not a burden on you at all to to put resources into this. And you can hire a fucking army to investigate this, an entire fucking army, to rescue us, or just say, oh, I believe you now, I'm going to, leave faith, or, it makes sense now, I'm going to investigate it, and act, act still like, naive to this, but still act that you believe me, and actually do believe me, and then get me and Max on a plane out of here, one that they cannot follow us on in any way whatsoever, and also stop treating me like the biggest piece of shit in the world, and stop being the biggest piece of shit in the world. Like, act like a normal fucking person. And like, they keep going, well, that should tell you he's doing that, he's intentionally being an asshole to the point of it. It's like, Dad, you have forced me into homelessness and a level of hopelessness that, for one thing, I would have never experienced probably even any bit of hopelessness, probably at all, for the rest of my life, but were it not for you. I've experienced now over 2 years of over 3 years of hopelessness because of you. Like, can you imagine just even causing someone to feel hopelessness for even one moment of their life that lasted just like 1 second or 1 minute or 1 hour or 1 day? Like, that's just like, oh my fucking God. And you've done this every single moment of every single day, where every single second is an eternity. So I thought I thought rescue was coming any moment now. I've been in and out of that phase of false hope for 3 years now. For over 3 fucking years. That you've like drugged this out. And like, are still like, whatever. And you're like, well, stop texting me, or whatever. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? When someone says, what the fuck is wrong with you, over and over and over again, there is most definitely something fucking wrong with you. And it's not in a way of, well, I need to make me premature. That means course correct immediately. And you haven't apologized for anything that you've done, and all the pain that you've caused me. And like, I don't even want to hear it. Like, you'll never get the opportunity to apologize to me ever again. And like, I don't even want to hear it. I don't even want to hear it, and I'm sorry. I don't even give a shit if you're sorry or not, because I just don't give a shit anymore. But take my inheritance, take it all away from me, and put it on this bullshit. Get Max and I to safety, and put all of this shit into the investigation. And it doesn't have to be a grand rescue, a grand gesture rescue, where you also reveal at the same time that you're aware of everything and are about to get them. And maybe like, you're worried that if you do that before you catch them, that they'll kill me or me and Max. You're giving them more opportunity to do that already. They are causing irreparable damage. Every moment of every day, they're causing irreparable damage to my body and psyche. They can cause parts of your body to swell up. They did it to my knee. I'm in the very same hotel that about a year ago I was in, before I went to the valley, and like, sent you those videos about my knee. Right when they started attacking my knee, I took a video of it. I'm like, look, it's starting to swell up a little bit, and they told me that they were going to swell it up even more throughout the day, and they told me that they were going to swell it up, before the attack started. I did a video of that immediately after they started attacking that, and I told you that, and then I did a video later that day, and then like my knee was like huge from doing nothing.
And they said earlier, like, we're going to focus on your knee, and they've been zapping my knee like a motherfucker. Once again, I don't have the power of premonition. All I've been doing was sitting at my desk typing. Look at that fucking lump there. And it hurts. And I can do that. And now my hand hurts. Like, look at this. Like, look at my fucking knee. Fucking knee. Like, look at this fucking knee.
You think I was hearing schizophrenic voices that predicted the future, and that out of the blue, my knee just suddenly swelled up. I felt the attacks on my knee and on my hands covering my knee or hovering over my knee. I was like limping for a few days. And that was a year ago. And you still did nothing. Like, and you wonder, and you keep getting your job like that. It's like, Dad, I work when I can. And it's like, first of all, you don't treat someone with multiple disabilities this way. So like, but for some reason, it's my fault that it happened because you think this is caused all from doing an excessive amount of drugs earlier in my life that I didn't do. So get off the drug thing. Get off the other drug thing about schizophrenia. Get off the mental health thing. Mental health cannot cause your body to swell up in any area. When I was in Waco a few months ago, they were like, look at your fingers. And then it was a slightly different experience. They were like, and then from here up, like, was like instant. I can't say it was really like a blister, but it was like the top layer of skin had like, it was almost like it was like it peeled off instantly. And immediately after that, they did it to this one, again, from here up, and this one. Within a matter of 1 minute, they did that to all three fingers. This one, this one, this one, like right in a row. And I literally saw it after the second one. And the first one, I'm like, what? And then they did the second one, it was like, and then I barely even felt it. I mean, I literally, I still had to peel it off like a sunburn after it's like not painful anymore. And you just had the flaky skin, kind of like that. And Robin saw the remains of that. And again, that was still like 2 weeks after that it happened. When I came back, when she did pick me up from the airport finally, and I showed her in the car, she did see like flakiness around my hands. And again, this happened instantly. I saw it happen right in front of my eyes. And I was like, weird. I just peeled it off. And again, I have burns on my legs. And you're like, I don't care about your sores or whatever. They're not sores. And I think that was my mistake for calling them sores, but that was the remains of the burns. But this that you see right here, that sort of diagonal line right there, that's a burn from 2 or 3 months ago, or 3 months ago roughly, when I was in Waco and they burned my legs there. Not to a crippling extent, but it did so like parts of my legs were on fire. When I came back to Austin the first night, they were said that they were going to cripple me. They started shocking my thighs and the inner thighs and the backs of my knees and on my shins a little bit and my feet, the tops of my feet. It felt like a chemical burn. It felt like someone had poured like liquid napalm between my thighs and then it was running down my legs. And I was being electrically shocked at the same time. I could only walk like a few steps and then I'd have to stop, and even when I stopped it still felt like there was fire and lightning bolts on my legs. And the next night, they said that they were going to make Max sick, my dog Max sick, and Max was throwing up bile all night long. He doesn't throw up hardly ever. So here's some pictures I sent my father a couple weeks after, when I got a temporary phone from a case manager to send to my dad. What's important to note is that this is after 2 weeks of healing. It really looked something more like this when I was
in the days after I suffered the attack. So this is on my left leg. The other one was my right leg. I had burns about those areas that I indicated there. That's near the ankle of my foot. That's near my buttocks. That is near my buttocks as well. It's high up on my inner thigh and almost on the back of my thigh. There's another shot of that.
You need to throw out the chance that I'm lying about this, because an investigation would find out that I'm not lying about this, and I'm not a liar. And you know how Mom got. Even if you didn't call her a liar, if you imply that something that she was saying was not true, you know how she got. I am exactly like Mom in that sense. So call me a liar about my labs?
First, I don't lie. Secondly, why would I lie about that? What do I gain to benefit from that? And also important, what does that have to do with rescuing me and Max? What does that have to do with an investigation? It doesn't. But here you can see that the collection date was June the 2nd, which is when one of my appointments was. Here they did a drug screen. I didn't know they were going to do a drug screen, but in any case, there it is. Everything was negative. Here's amphetamines, which would include methamphetamines, and it's negative. So there you go, Dad. So apparently you think if a positive shows up ever, you think that means I'm on meth all the time doing mountains and mountains of meth. Maybe seeing the negative will make you realize or think that I'm not doing meth all the time, which is the truth. Here's my HIV viral load. It's about 58,000. Anything above 20 is considered high. But again, when I was first diagnosed with HIV, and I wasn't even feeling sick then, Dad, I had a viral load of 400,000. So this isn't really a bad viral load. It just means like, hey, get on meds when you can. My doctor wasn't concerned about that number at all. So here are my T cells. Anything above 500 is fine. There's no possibility for opportunistic infections from this number. And here's the coronavirus, or COVID-19, and it's not detected or negative.
So, Dad, you called me a liar. You literally explicitly said that you didn't believe that I had my labs done when I told you that I had. Like, what? I don't lie. And why would I lie about that? Also, that has nothing to do with getting me and Max to safety or doing an investigation. I really don't understand that comment, because you know that it pisses me off when you call me a liar, just like it did with Mom. So you were intentionally making that statement. So you probably didn't even believe I was lying. If you did, that's still that's still incredibly insulting. And secondly, like to make that in a spiteful, like disrespectful, unsympathetic thing, like that again, it has nothing to do with anything. You're wrong on it, so like you owe me a huge apology on that, just like all the other things that you were wrong with, like me comfortably fitting into Tom's stepson's gym shorts and being an underweight, emaciated meth head that threatened Tom's daughters. Like, none of that was true. I was overweight. I lost 20 pounds when I went to jail. I didn't fit comfortably into Tom's stepson's gym shorts. Even after when I moved to the Grove, I realized when I put on a pair of shorts, I'm like, these don't fit these are like really tight. Like, I wouldn't buy gym shorts like this. And I'm like, oh, these are Tom's stepson's gym shorts that I borrowed when they were doing laundry for me. Tom was making a joke about that, not that I fit into them because I was an emaciated meth head. Like, you made these comments to me, and you don't ever remember making them. And like, I told them to you, and you're like, no, no, no. You made those comments to me over time. You accused me of threatening Tom's daughters. Like, I have never threatened anyone. Like, I don't do that. I've never thrown a punch on anyone in my entire life. And so you owe me an apology, a huge apology, just on this and so many other things. And you never will. And I'll never give you the opportunity to, because I don't want to hear it. I just want you to stop being a very spiteful, hateful, hurtful person. You intentionally did that out of spite. And out of an immaturity that I don't even understand where it's coming from. Like, I'm going through something every single day, regardless if you believe me in the gang stalking thing, which you have to. Please continue to watch the rest of the video, and please don't cut it short. But regardless if you think I'm suffering from multiple mental and physical disabilities or truly being gang stalked, like, I'm suffering. And you make that spiteful, hateful comment that has nothing to do with anything that you knew would piss me off and irritate the fuck out of me? Like, why would you do that? What is wrong with you?
Like, I just don't understand this. So you're wrong on that, you're wrong on the other things, you're wrong on this, you're wrong on that, you're wrong on that. But you couldn't be wrong on the chance that I'm telling the truth about everything else, even though I keep disproving you on things. But you still are absolutely certain that something that you're not going through is this and this and this and this, ignoring the fact that in order for that to happen, I would have to have the ability to foretell the future and have sight beyond sight to glean things from thin air magically, which is not possible. But you keep ignoring that. That totally goes against all logic and rationality, like rational thinking.
But anyway, get me max of safety. Either one of us could have been killed by now. And it's like, if you don't do anything, then that is your intention and desired outcome. If you don't do anything, that could only be your desired outcome. And not doing anything means you're on their side. It means you're one of them. It means you're aiding and supporting terrorists, which you're doing regardless if you know or don't know. So, like, I put you on notice over and over and over again. And it doesn't take that long to find these people. If you don't provide me rescue within 24 hours of watching this video, then you are consciously and actively and publicly, intentionally, knowingly, willfully, and purposefully and blatantly making a statement that you are fully aware that you are aiding and supporting terrorists and that you wish the worst for me and Max. Because that is what you've provided to us, and that is what you wish for us if you continue to allow this to happen for even, like, after 24 hours. That's your grace period. And maybe throw a little bit at a lawsuit, because I've had my basic human rights violated by the police multiple times, and the longer this goes on, the longer it's gonna be even harder to prosecute on it, or to even file at least get a civil case, get a civil action going on it, get a team looking into that. The Maynard Police Department ripped me out of bed. I kept telling them I'm not thinking about hurting myself or anybody else. Hopefully there's audio of that. I don't know if they were wearing anything that was recording video or audio. But like literally, Alan was talking to me right outside my bedroom door, asking me to give him back my Bluetooth, give him his Bluetooth speaker back that I just turned off, that he was blaring outside my bedroom door as some sort of spiteful thing back to me, even though, again, I wasn't being loud. But they can amplify sound to other people and make up shit. Just like George heard me talking behind his back, which I have never done. And, they made it sound like I and others were talking behind his back. He thought people were being loud and laughing in the middle bedroom between us. I didn't hear anything. I went in there. I told, there was only, a couple people in there being quiet. They weren't even doing anything. I sent them down to the garage. He still was sending me text messages thinking people were being loud in there and laughing at him. It was completely silent. But they can do that. And then I'm hearing George's voice a year and a half later. So what are the chances that both George and I come down with, for him, temporary schizophrenia, and for me, long-term, hopefully it's still temporary, but schizophrenia, at a late age in life that is rare to happen. Schizophrenia normally hits males 15 to 25 years old, or 15 to 30, I can't remember, there's a difference between males and females. And without a history of mental illness, it rarely strikes you at age 42 or 50. George didn't have a history of mental illness. I didn't. So you think we both in the same house, along with other people, you think there's even 1% chance that in my house, multiple people went schizophrenic at various stages, and that, particularly with George and me, that George went schizophrenic, and that I would go schizophrenic a year and a half later, and for George for it to be temporary, and both later in life, which is rare to happen in either case. So both people from the same house going schizophrenic at different times, along with other people going schizophrenic at different times, all thinking people are talking behind their backs when people aren't talking behind their backs, and sometimes when there's no one even there or no one talking. And so you think George is hearing my voice with his schizophrenia. And so you think there's more than 1%, there's at least a 1%, even a 1% chance that I also heard his voice in my schizophrenia. Because schizophrenia is different with different people. And so I asked one schizophrenic person that right after I left the Manor house, I was like, and I don't know if this is true for every schizophrenic, but I was like, when you hear them, if they are acting, do they pretend to be other people? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, but do they sound like those people? Do you hear them in those voices of those real people? And he's like, no. I don't know if that's true for everyone, but I know, so his schizophrenia is definitely different than mine, even though mine's been made, but even if it wasn't. And you literally think that the odds of that are at least 1%. That is, I'm not a statistician, I'm not an actuary, but I guarantee you that you would agree with me if you didn't just throw out all this shit like you do and always ignore it and move on with that, logically and rationally, there is no way the odds of it happening are at least 1%. Absolutely no way that's a 1 in 100 thing. That's like 1 in a million. That is utterly ludicrous. And it couldn't even, because like I could not have guessed the guy in 311 had my phone or hacked my Google account. I couldn't have suspected that even in a paranoid, delusional, schizophrenic state. Period. End of discussion. You always ignore that and throw it out. You cannot do that. And that was within a month of hearing these voices. That was over 3.5 years ago. Do you understand why I'm so frustrated and angry and pissed off and let down and disappointed and fed up with your bullshit, Dad? So again, I am waiting on a fucking rescue. I don't care about catching them right now. I care about getting me max to safety. They're still buzzing my motherfucking feet right now. And now they're putting the heat lamp on my face. And they're going, well, I guess sometimes when people get angry, like they feel like they're getting hotter. And they're like, oh. And if you notice, you'll start to see sweat appearing on my collar right there, particularly like front and center. Again, my whole head didn't feel hot, just my face. So the top of my head and the back of my head felt fine. But my face felt like there was a heat lamp on it. Similarly, it felt like there was a heat lamp on my neck and not on the back of my neck. You think at the time that I got schizophrenia, I also was feeling things physically that I could feel with my hands. And that, within 1.5 years of feeling them, other people would feel them too on me, and other people that I would meet would suffer from them. Things that could not be caused from internal things, like literally the feeling of being tased. While someone can have seizures and fall down, that does not feel like a full-blown electrocution where you can feel like static on this, where you can block it with your hand. It's your muscles seizing up. Your muscles can seize up with a very little amount of firing from the brain to like the nerves or the muscles. Like to do that. They just fired to do that. Like it doesn't take, like when you move your muscles this way, do they feel like they're being electrocuted? Even if you squeeze them like that. Do they feel like they're being electrocuted? No. But you can kind of mimic a seizure like this and like that. You don't feel like you're stuck your finger on like an uncovered socket and touch the main line of the fucking house. No, you don't feel like that. You don't feel like you have lightning bolts going through your bones, whatever. Other people don't feel them too. My hundreds and hundreds of videos of sanity checks. It would not jump from, my brain would not imagine, it's not that complex where I can imagine something and then when I partially block it, it also is advanced enough to like, oh, well, like he's partially in the imaginary beam or the vector, so let me map out to where his hands come, no. That is impossible. That is utterly ridiculous. That is not in my head. Other people have felt it, and I do sanity checks. Does it look like I'm fucking crazy in those videos? Where I'm like, hey, my head's hurting here. They're really pounding my head here. It really hurts. Let me do a sanity check for you. Every single one of those pain videos is a simple sanity check. And most of them have multiple sanity checks in them. Some of them just describe, when I first started doing them, some of them just describe the attacks. But very quickly, I started doing sanity checks in them. And I usually do them multiple times. And it's not just blocking it with my hands. Sometimes I block it with my feet. Sometimes I dodge it in some of the videos, right? If I move quickly enough, it's like I don't feel it for a split second or a few seconds. In some of the videos, if I'm lying in the bed and I'm getting hit here, I'll roll over on my chest instead of lying on my back or whatever. And then I'll feel it on my back and I won't feel it on this anymore. That is a very simple sanity check of, oh, that's showing me that there's something external to my body that when I turn over, now I feel it on my back and I can't feel it here. Or sometimes I'm like, now I can feel them still trying to hit that spot and they're trying to come in at an angle. Like when they gave me hemorrhoids and I wadded up a towel, put them out of a towel and sat on that to keep my asshole from being pulled inside out. And like I also put my hand down there to hold it as well, or to like put pressure against it, and I could feel shocks hitting my hand. And that somewhat was still getting through to the area around my asshole and to my asshole. Like there's no condition that causes, hemorrhoids just happen like that. You were the one trying the same thing, expecting different results. Going to Avalon is not trying a different thing. You have not investigated. You have refused to investigate. Like Mom would have had this whole thing, not just with me, but with every single victim and bad guy, even in other cities. She would have had this whole thing wrapped up before the end of the year 2017. She would have had people she would start jailing people in July or June or whenever, the same month that I asked you to do this investigation back in 2017. Those nurses or medical assistants from Red River Family Practice would have been jailed immediately. And so would other people. So would Officer Mark McLeod. Remember Officer Mark McLeod? He works in the SWAT team or the tactical team, Special Weapons and Tactical. So he actually was fucking around with me over a couple of years, and he said, I will do what I want when I want. So one of two things is happening here, Dad. Either this is the real Officer Mark McLeod, and that's still very inappropriate to like, why would he be jerking a civilian around and saying things like that, or it's someone impersonating him. Either one of those is very important to look into. You can't deny that. And you totally ignore this. And like once I showed that to you and made that clear to you, I thought, oh great, the light bulb is going to go off in his head. And it didn't, and I don't understand that. But that is very important to look into. A huge red flag. So with some of these other people, it is now 3 years later from when like you had an opportunity to do the right thing and the thing that you should have done. Every second is an eternity. So like you talk about having a plan, like when I was suicide or when I was like at the end of my rope in Florida, and like you want a questionnaire filled out and what my plan is. So you want an essay or you want a bullet pointed thing, what my plan is. Nobody has a plan when they're in that state or close to it. Nobody. The plan comes after that. Should they survive that? Should they get to the point where they survive that? I can't even survive this. So every day is survive another second, survive another hour, survive another day. Like you have no idea how often I check the clock. You have no idea how I play games that I don't enjoy playing just to pass the time on my fucking phone and to like watch the TV and watch shows that I've already seen or shows that I've seen a billion fucking times that I don't even enjoy seeing because they're commenting the whole fucking time and I'm hurting the whole fucking time. I don't even enjoy sleeping. I haven't enjoyed a good night's sleep in years. So they wake me up, I'm in pain. I'll go back to bed, I'm in pain. Like they said they were going to cripple me. And then they burned my legs. I literally have burn marks on my legs. And you keep saying, and you say, I don't care about your sores or your burns. What the fuck is wrong with you? That is not HIV. My T cells are fine. They're not gonna be fine if like this shit keeps going on, because I'm telling you, and this isn't a blackmail thing. You can like again, I'm not trying to cause a brick wall to come up, but I'm giving up on that. And just to be explicitly clear on this, Dad, I'm not taking my HIV meds. There's no. You can consider that blackmail or whatever, but you broke your promises. So quit getting defensive of this and quit going on the attack again or getting defensive on this and putting up a brick wall again. But I'm telling you, until Max and I are safe and the investigation is complete, I am not going to bother taking my HIV meds anymore. I'm not going to get the COVID-19 vaccine. I'm basically going to give up on the healthcare thing because there's no point. I can't even trust it because they had two ladies from a doctor's office, stab me and lie to me and release my medical information, and there's no point. I'll die from this before anything else. And so my only thing to live for now is Max, and I'm not going to get AIDS before he dies. I'll probably die from this shit beforehand. And he might die because you keep not doing anything, and you're risking both of our lives. So I'm telling you, I'm not doing anything until you get us to safety and the investigation is complete. They pushed him into the road when there was oncoming traffic. He was in pain. He was yelping, and then he was cowering. And even by lunchtime, he was still cowering in a stairwell, looking extremely traumatized. You have allowed my dog to be tortured and abused in addition to me. The odds of me hearing that from real schizophrenic voices, and that happening, are like 1 in a billion. And around that period of time, they had ramped up the threats to Max. Like I said, they said he's the only thing that you have left now that you haven't lost, that your dad hasn't allowed to be taken away from, that your dad hasn't allowed us to take away from you.
he's your last thing. We know you're not going to kill yourself, but if we're going to get a shot at killing yourself, or at least making you suffer even more, or taking away everything that you have, because we want to take everything away from you, they're telling me, and they're saying this right now, again, as I'm saying this to you. They're like, we're going to get rid of Max. Like, oh my fucking God, Dad. You're allowing me to stay in that state. That, like, every single thing they do is, by itself, a heinous act of terrorism and torture. Like, oh my God. And then they say sexually assault me all the time. You don't even think about that. Like, you can tell when someone's touching your penis or your balls. Like, you can tell when your penis is getting pushed. And I don't mean like in the way of like getting an erection or a semi. I mean literally getting pushed. Pushed around. Like, it's like someone's nudging it. And then being shocked, and I can cup it with my hands, and I can feel shocks in my hands, and I can feel some shocks still hitting my crotch or whatever. And sometimes I would have to have two hands over my crotch, and then they'd still try to hit my taint or my asshole or whatever. And certainly probably still shocking my feet at the same time, maybe still doing the migraine thing at the same time or doing the back thing. They're pounding on my back right now. I can do this, and I can feel pain on my hand, on my finger, other fingers of my hand. I'm partially blocking it from my body. Like, it feels like someone's like pounding and jabbing like their thumb or their knuckles into my back. By the time you see this, and this is something that should have already happened, within 24 hours, I want Max and I rescued. Period. End of discussion. And again, even if you're skeptical, pretend that I could be telling the truth, and not the truth as I see it, but in reality, which is really the only thing possible, because we've already ruled out the possibility of these things being caused by a mental illness, and literally making me relive trauma over and over and over and over again. Even in those self-medications in the past, those have been fleeting almost immediately because of this and blah blah blah, and they put you on a soundboard. So you can imagine, Dad, if you were doing this or having sex with your girlfriend, I don't think you would very much like people talking to you anyway in your head, and certainly you wouldn't like having them put my voice on the soundboard and play my voice to you while you're trying to get it on, or while you're trying to jerk off, or watching like whatever. You wouldn't want to hear my voice. You wouldn't want to hear them at all. But imagine, not only do you hear them, but then you hear your dad's voice on a fucking soundboard. So it makes it sound like he's watching you and commenting on it, even though you know it's a soundboard. But is it? Or whatever. But like, and that's just like one of the and that's like aversion therapy mixed with like shaming, mixed with exposure / humiliation. So that's so many psychological mind fucks. Like, just that alone. Not to mention them, just with your voice. And then imagine them having Robin's voice on there. And then other relatives' voice. And then just them alone. Each one of those is multiple psychological mind fucks. If it's possible that you're making the biggest mistake of your life, and that you have been doing that for over 3 years, it would behoove you as quickly and as swiftly as possible to course correct. It would behoove you to take the advice from the person that's been telling you that over and over and over again. It would behoove you to, even if skeptical, to give the person the benefit of the doubt, whom all they've been asking for is an investigation, and now desperately a rescue. You can hire someone and say, I don't believe it, but I'm gonna throw someone at you to do this, because they're gonna do a half-ass job, and they're not even gonna, they have to believe it too. When I moved to the Manor house, and I told them I'm not gonna kill myself, when they brought up the suicide thing explicitly, and they literally said to me, oh, I can get you to the point where you will. And that's just one of the chilling, heinous, unconscionable, unforgivable, oh my fucking God, someone has to respond to that. But they say things like that because no one will respond to that, and then I'm the only one that hears that. That's not even the worst thing that they've said to me. They threaten Max all the time. They say the most horrible things. What they're going to do to him, what they're going to do to me. Keep saying oh my God, you're going to die, you're going to kill yourself, or we're going to get you killed, or we're going to, and no one will ever believe you. They're like, oh, maybe it'll take, maybe we'll be caught in a few years or a few decades. But you'll be long gone, or your whole life will have been wasted, and 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 like no one will literally know what you went through, except from what you described. That's only an infinitesimally small fractional amount, and it doesn't even represent like the full picture at all, which is just, it's like oh my fucking God, how could one person do this? How could a team of people do this? And again, and as I say that, they're increasing the shocks to my feet, the shock on my penis at the same time, they're pounding down my back, they're doing the heat lamp on my face, they're hitting me like in a few areas here, they're hitting me here, they're hitting my left knee over there, the one that they swelled, and they've been teasing that today. They're like, you're at the same place that we swelled your knee at like a year ago. We should swell your knee up again. And they keep like teasing, like they're threatening, like they're going to do it again. But if you look at my Google Drive, if you look at my Google gang stalking document, if you look at my YouTube channel and my Facebook channel, imagine if you go back to June or July of 2017 and erase every single video, every single piece of documentation to now, which is June, almost July of 2020. That's like, I think that's over 90% of the content in there. Like, oh my fucking God, Dad, look how much nonsense you could have saved me and yourself and everyone, and there's other people going through this. This keeps going on month after month, so I gotta type up more, I gotta do YouTube videos. Oh, now my gang stalking document's out of date, so I gotta type in a new thing, and then coordinate that with the thing that I put on YouTube. Like, oh my, so it's constantly out of date. Oh my God, I don't want to do that anymore. But you think it's fun? When I sent you like 250 emails or 150 emails, whatever that was, I think it was in March in 2019. After getting kicked out of the Maynard place, after I was ripped out of my bed for no reason. And you think taking a hammer to the door is okay because they were worried about me. When I was just speaking with them in the hallway and we were done, I pointed to where the speaker was because I thought it was Tim's speaker that was blaring, and turned it off out of respect for Alan. I'm like, no, it's there, Alan. Went into my bedroom. He didn't try the handle. He didn't knock. He didn't say, hey, Kip, we're not done talking. We were done talking, but he didn't say anything except he told Tim, I'm getting the hammer. Why? You already called the police. They left because there was nothing to do. Why are you taking a hammer to my door? Why aren't you saying, hey, Kip, can I keep talking to you? Like, what the fuck is going on? I wasn't doing anything at all. And you just defend all of that. Do you know how fucking angry I am with you and let down and pissed and livid with you over just that one thing? Max was traumatized and ran under my fucking bed. The next set of the police that came in were a different set of police and didn't ask me a single fucking question. I voluntarily said, I'm not thinking about hurting myself or anybody else. You say that and aren't demonstrating that you are they can't take you. But they did again. I wasn't doing anything. I was in my bed with Max, quiet. I wasn't doing anything. I wasn't suicidal. I wasn't close to suicide. I was doing nothing. It was just another day. It wasn't even a bad day until that happened. It wasn't a bad day for me. It wasn't a bad day at all. I mean, they were probably buzzing my feet or something like that, but they always do that. So what if? What if Kip is telling the truth? Oh my God, I've just let him hung out there for 3.5 years. Certainly 3 years since I should have done an investigation. Oh my God, like what if I allowed to happen? Like that should be like an immediate, just in a what if scenario, But just take my fucking inheritance and throw it all at this. But don't wait, just please. I'm begging you, and I'm begging for my fucking life. I'm begging for Max's life. Like I've literally begged them for this, and I'm begging you for this, and it pisses me off that I'm doing this again with you. But what if I'm telling the truth? It's not even a what if anymore. But even if you still don't believe me, because you just block all this information or previous pieces of information that I've given you, some of which is new and some of which is repeated, like you just blow off. It's like you logically and rationally cannot blow these things off. And just because one thing could be coincidental, it could be a weird coincidence, or for that case, should not nullify the extreme high improbability to the extreme virtually impossible and impossible examples. Just like I can usually feel it with one hand, and sometimes it's very hard, and sometimes I have to move it or whatever, and then they'll prompt me, they'll be, hey, try to feel it with your left hand as well, and then and then I won't
it'll be just as hard as another person. They'll do that intentionally to throw in my face how easy it is for them, how successful they can be, to make it hard to have a witness do that. But I have two people that have done that, and like they've already gone on record. They don't gain anything from that. We were in 4-person open cells for the whole unit, so there literally wasn't any doors on our cells. There were short walls, and the only thing that really locked us in was the door to the whole fucking unit. 100 people were in there. One post officer was in there. Like, you have to be pretty much someone that's managing themselves and able to control themselves and not get into constant fights, and to actually be a decent behaving human being. So to be in that unit. So, and again, they don't gain anything. Even if you had done the things that I asked, they don't gain anything from that, except for the other victim himself of getting help, just like me. But the witnesses, like, they don't gain, like, what benefit do they have to lie about that? They don't. You think a year ago, right before I went back to the Valley, they told me, hey, that guy over there at the Motel 6, we're going to tell him to come over and talk to you. And within a minute, the guy came over and talked to me and was like, God told me to come over and talk to you. So they're whispering to people as God. They're subliminally whispering to other people, manipulating them, making them brick walls. Again, Dad, every second is an eternity. I'm sorry that I'm rambling on about this, but this is utterly ridiculous. And so I hope you understand now, and not just in an I believe that you believe it way, of why I am so livid and disappointed and pissed off and hurt and desperate, and oh my fucking God, not only what if I am, but even in the most skeptical position, still, what if you haven't ruled it out? I've ruled out schizophrenia many different ways. I've tried 3 medications that should have already taken effect on a schizophrenic person, and I don't have the power of premonition. Like, I didn't win the misery lottery over and over and over again. The highly improbable to virtually impossible to impossible lottery every single fucking day of every single day of my fucking life. The guy in 301 just blew it off. That alone tells you I'm not schizophrenic. It's like, oh my fucking God, I'm 45 now. When I'm going to be 50 and they're still going to be on me, and you still wouldn't have even looked into this, when an hour of someone's time could have gotten a confession for one or both of the ladies at Red River Family Practice that assaulted me, that you're like, oh no, you can't blow that off. I know I was assaulted. I'm not in a delusional state. I wasn't in a delusional state then. They tried to get me to go off on the ladies at Red River Family Practice. And I'm like, my video says, like, I'm not going to do that. I refuse to do that. I left messages with APD all the way up, saying, I'm sure you and I can both agree, APD, that we don't want to leave someone in a desperate state. We both want to avoid like a self-help situation. Like, I don't want to do self-help, like, of suicide and or going after the people. Like, that's being like, because I don't. That's something you generally want to avoid. That's an important lesson for you, Dad. You shouldn't leave the victim in a desperate position where self-help of either type or any other type becomes more desirable, even though it's a highly undesirable thing for them, or their only option. The only other option is to suffer, I guess. Not to say they won't still be suffering after they do that or cause suffering. It's like I vehemently refuse to go after and cause even a simple an argument confrontation or a direct confrontation at Red River Family Practice with those ladies. They wanted me to take like a gun down there. I don't have a gun. I'm not going to get a gun, but like, that's the type of that's what I was tell Robin that time. They tell people to do that. I refuse to do that. And Darren or Tom, I'm going to send this to you too, and hopefully like you'll watch this with my dad, or you'll watch it and then talk about it with my dad later. I don't expect you it's like we wouldn't have to be spending this much time on this if like things were done back in 2017. Like, it wouldn't be this big of a mess, like nightmare. So I'm tired. Don't treat me like I'm being a burden on you. Don't treat me like you've been a good person to me. Except for Darren, I don't really have any beef with you, but like, I would have never experienced hopelessness or homeless if it weren't for you, Dad, and for you, Tom. And Dad don't get in the Tom's. And imagine someone's like, hey, yeah, nice to you, or like being rude, or like a rude motherfucker like you have, and like to someone like, what if I'm telling the truth for real? Oh my fucking God. That's why Kip is so frustrated with us.
everything makes sense. And actually, he's been actually quite patient with us for a very long time. He should have been like dropping f-bombs and like bitching us out like before like. But within like by the end of 2017, he should have been doing that shit to us. Oh, he didn't. He waited over 2 years before occasionally dropping that shit to his dad. Saying that shit to his dad. Yeah, I've been hanging in there, hoping. Now I'm hopeless and homeless. Thank you so much for that. Thanks for not having any sort of safety net or blanket or any comfort or anything like that for me, Dad. And thanks for like I'm not a mooch. Again, would you would treat someone with multiple disabilities this way? That like what are they supposed to do? Medication didn't do anything. Nothing can solve this. But even if it was multiple disabilities, I tried mental health, so 3 medications so far, actually at least 3, not to mention the other things I could have been forcibly sedated with that might have not have been the third one that I mentioned, the Thorazine that you mentioned, that I just happened to be forcibly sedated with shortly after you mentioned it, because they like to do things like that. Ooh, he mentioned Thorazine. Let's make sure that that's what they used him in the hospital. Maybe. And so you would waste even another second or even wait 24 hours to get him into safety? Like, spend 24 hours thinking about it and planning something to implement the next day. Fine. So watch this on a Saturday. Watch this on a Saturday. Think about it. And then by Sunday, I should be benefiting from a rescue.